Hello everyone, today I want to share an inspiring story with you, a story that is not only great for your listening practice but also carries a powerful message about effort, resilience, and belief. The story is titled Nothing is Free, and it beautifully illustrates how hard work and determination can transform even the toughest circumstances. There once lived a 20-year-old young man named Leo, in a small, peaceful town tucked between tall mountains. Leo carried big dreams in his heart. He dreamed of one day owning a chain of restaurants and becoming a successful entrepreneur. But dreams alone were not enough, and life around him was far from easy. His family struggled every single day. His father, Mark, worked long hours as a mechanic, while his mother, Claire, cleaned houses just to help the family survive. His little sister, Sophie, only 10 years old, adored Leo and believed he could do anything, but even her innocent faith did not erase their hardships. One cold evening, Leo sat outside his modest home, gazing at the silent sky filled with stars. The chilly wind brushed against his face as he whispered to himself, "I want to give my family a better life, but where do I even begin when we barely have enough to make it through each day?" His heart felt heavy, yet the fire of hope still burned quietly within him. The next morning, he finally gathered the courage to share his dream with his father. Mark listened carefully, then sighed deeply and said, "Leo, dreams are never free. If you truly want something, you must work for it, fight for it. Start with whatever you have, even if it seems small." These words settled in Leo's mind like seeds waiting to grow. He thought about them all day, turning them over and over, until suddenly, a new idea sparked inside him. As Leo continued thinking about his father's advice, he began observing the needs of the people around him. Soon, he noticed something important: the people in his small town loved eating fresh, warm bread, but there was no bakery nearby. Everyone had to travel a long distance just to buy a few loaves. That's when an idea lit up in Leo's mind: what if he brought fresh bread to his own town? It seemed small, but it was a start. However, a big challenge stood in his way. Leo didn't have any money to buy the bread in the first place. But he refused to give up. Determined to try, he decided to take a bold step and speak directly to the bakery owner, Mr. Anderson, a man known for being strict, cautious, and not very trusting of strangers. Leo walked several miles to reach the bakery. The journey was long and tiring, but his hope pushed him forward. When he finally arrived, he took a deep breath and approached Mr. Anderson with as much confidence as he could gather. "Mr. Anderson," he began respectfully, "I want to sell your bread in my town. People love it, and there's no bakery near us. I don't have money to buy the bread up front, but if you trust me for just 1 week, I promise I will sell the bread, return your earnings, and keep only a small profit for myself." Mr. Anderson narrowed his eyes and raised an eyebrow. "And why should I trust you, young man?" he asked in a stern, doubtful voice. But Leo didn't flinch. He stood tall and replied with calm confidence, "Because I'm determined, sir. I'm ready to work as hard as it takes, and I will prove that your trust won't go to waste." His words hung in the air for a moment. Mr. Anderson stayed silent, studying Leo's face, trying to judge whether this boy was serious or just another dreamer. After a long pause, the old man finally exhaled and said, "All right. I'll give you bread for 1 week. But remember, if you fail to pay me back even once, don't bother coming here again." Leo's heart leaped with excitement. He thanked Mr. Anderson repeatedly and rushed home with new hope burning inside him. Early the next morning, before the sun even rose, he carried the fresh bread all the way back to his town. He set up a tiny wooden stand near the park, hoping people would stop by. With full energy and a warm smile, he greeted everyone who passed, calling out, "Fresh bread! Warm and delicious!" At first, the townspeople were unsure. They didn't know if the bread was really fresh or worth buying. But Leo cleverly offered small samples, and his kindness slowly won people over. Soon, his very first customer arrived, then another, and by the end of the day, Leo was stunned. He had sold every single loaf and earned a small profit. That evening, exhausted but proud, Leo walked all the way back to the bakery and placed the money in Mr. Anderson's hands. The old man looked at him, nodded approvingly, and said, "You kept your word. Come back tomorrow." From that day on, Leo gave everything he had. He woke up at 4 a.m. every morning, walked miles to the bakery, carried heavy baskets of bread back to his town, and sold each loaf with passion, honesty, and a smile that never faded. After 2 months of non-stop hard work, Leo finally saved enough money to buy a small cart. This simple upgrade changed everything. Now he could carry more bread at once, reach customers faster, and grow his little business with ease. One afternoon, while he served customers as usual, an elderly man took a bite of the bread and said, "Leo, you're great at selling, but have you ever thought about baking your own bread? You'd earn much more." The suggestion struck Leo like a spark. The idea was exciting, full of possibility, yet it also scared him. He had never baked anything before, not even a simple loaf. The thought of trying something completely new made his heart race with both fear and hope. That night, as Leo lay awake, the truth became clear to him: nothing in life is free, not success, not skills, not growth, not the future he dreamed of. If he wanted to rise higher, he had to take risks, learn new things, and push himself beyond the comfort of what he already knew. The more he thought about the idea of baking, the more it pulled him in. If he learned to bake, he wouldn't have to depend entirely on Mr. Anderson. His profit would increase, and he could take another big step toward his dream. But there was one major obstacle: he had absolutely no idea how to bake. Still, Leo refused to back down. He decided that if he wanted to grow, he needed to find the courage to ask for help. The next morning, after handing over the day's earnings, Leo looked at Mr. Anderson and said respectfully, "Mr. Anderson, can you teach me how to bake?" The old man's face hardened instantly. He frowned and replied, "Why should I teach you? If you learn to bake, you won't need to buy bread from me anymore. That's bad for my business." The words were sharp, but Leo didn't lose hope. He met Mr. Anderson's eyes and said softly yet firmly, "You're right. But I will never forget the man who gave me my first chance. You helped me when I had nothing. That will always matter." Leo continued, speaking with sincerity in his voice. "If I succeed, I'll make sure to help your bakery grow as well. I won't forget what you did for me." Mr. Anderson remained silent for a moment, thinking deeply. Finally, he sighed and said, "Fine. I'll teach you. But listen carefully, baking isn't easy. It demands time, patience, and a lot of hard work. If you're truly ready for all that, then we can begin." Leo nodded eagerly, his heart swelling with determination. The very next morning, long before the world was awake, Leo arrived at the bakery at 3 a.m. The sky was still dark, and the streets were silent. Mr. Anderson greeted him with a simple nod and immediately began the lessons. He showed Leo how to mix flour properly, how to knead the dough with steady hands, and how to judge the perfect temperature for baking. It was far more difficult than Leo had imagined. His arms ached from kneading, his fingers felt sore, and almost every loaf he baked came out wrong, too hard, too soft, too burnt, or too raw. One morning, after ruining yet another batch of bread, Leo finally broke down. He sat on a small wooden stool in the corner of the bakery, feeling tired, frustrated, and defeated. "Maybe I'm not good enough for this," he whispered to himself. "Maybe I should just give up." For a moment, he felt everything slipping away, his dreams, his confidence, his progress. But then, as if a light switched back on inside him, he remembered his father's words, "Dreams are not free." Suddenly, everything made sense again. Every mistake, every failure, every burned loaf was not the end, it was a lesson. Each one was teaching him something new. Giving up now would mean throwing away everything he had worked for. Quitting was not an option. The very next day, Leo returned to the bakery with even stronger determination burning inside him. He paid close attention to every instruction, practiced each step slowly and carefully, and refused to rush the process. Day after day, he shaped dough, corrected his mistakes, and learned to understand the rhythm of baking. Slowly, almost unexpectedly, his bread began to improve. The crust was right, the texture was soft, and the aroma filled the bakery with warmth. After 2 weeks of relentless practice, Mr. Anderson picked up one of Leo's loaves, examined it closely, took a bite, and said with a rare smile, "This is perfect, Leo. You're ready." Leo felt a joy he had never known before. With renewed confidence, he rented a small oven and began baking bread at home. His family watched him with pride and amazement. Little Sophie helped him pack the bread carefully, while his mother brewed hot tea for him as he worked late into the night. The house that once felt quiet and worried was now filled with the comforting smell of freshly baked bread and the sound of hope returning. Before long, Leo was not only selling bread, he began experimenting with cookies, pastries, and small sweet treats. The people in town fell in love with his products. They would say, "Leo's bread tastes better than anything we've ever had." Word spread quickly, and his small business grew faster than he expected. But success never comes without challenges. One day, a brand new bakery opened in town, run by a confident young man named Eric. He had a large shop, shiny equipment, colorful signs, and decorations that instantly grabbed people's attention. Curious to try something new, many of Leo's customers began visiting Eric's bakery instead. Leo watched his sales drop day by day, and a wave of fear washed over him. "What if I lose everything I worked so hard for?" he thought. The uncertainty gnawed at him, testing the strength of his spirit once again. Leo felt the weight of fear pressing on his chest, but instead of panicking or giving up, he made a bold decision: he would improve. Rather than blaming Eric or feeling helpless, he chose to learn. Leo began talking to his customers with humility, asking, "What do you like about Eric's bakery? What can I do better?" Their answers opened his eyes. Some people said, "Eric's shop looks clean, bright, and beautiful," while others mentioned, "His cakes have such lovely designs." Leo realized that if he wanted to grow, he had to evolve not only as a baker but also as a businessman. With the small savings he had, Leo painted his cart with fresh, vibrant colors. He added simple but attractive decorations to make it stand out. He started offering free samples of his newest pastries to show customers the quality of his work. At night, instead of sleeping early, he went to the town library, sat at an old computer, and watched baking and cake, decorating tutorials. He practiced for hours, learning how to make beautiful designs just like the ones people admired in Eric's bakery. Slowly, things began to change. Customers who had drifted away started returning. They noticed Leo's effort, his improved pastries, and his warm, honest way of working. One evening, as Leo was closing his cart, an elderly woman approached him and said gently, "I've seen many young men quit when life becomes difficult, but you didn't. You kept going. That's why we trust you." Her words touched Leo deeply. They filled him with pride, strength, and a renewed belief in himself. Months passed, and Leo's business continued to grow. With consistent effort, long nights, and unwavering determination, he finally saved enough money to rent a small shop, the next big step toward the dream he once whispered under the stars. The shop Leo rented wasn't as big or modern as Eric's, but it had something special: warmth, honesty, and a welcoming atmosphere that made everyone feel at home. He named it Leo's Fresh Bakes. Every morning, before the sun even touched the rooftops, Leo woke up, baked fresh bread, and opened his little shop with a bright smile. His family stood by him every step of the way. Sophie, now 11, loved chatting with customers and arranging pastries neatly on the counter. Claire, his mother, carefully managed the accounts, keeping track of every sale and expense. His father repaired anything that broke, making sure the shop ran smoothly. But deep in his heart, Leo knew this was just the beginning of his journey. He wanted to reach more people, make his family even prouder, and prove to himself that with hard work and courage, anything is possible. As months went by, Leo's Fresh Bakes became the heart of the town. People praised his warm bread, soft cakes, and delightful pastries. Business grew, and the once struggling family now lived with hope, comfort, and pride. Leo felt his dream slowly coming to life, but life, as always, had another test waiting for him. One stormy night, as Leo was preparing to close the shop, he smelled something unusual. When he stepped inside, he saw smoke rising from near the oven. His heart pounded. A small fire had started, spreading quickly across the counter. Without wasting a second, Leo grabbed buckets of water and fought the flames with all his strength. After a tense struggle, he managed to stop the fire, but a lot of his equipment was damaged. The oven was ruined, trays were burnt, and the walls were blackened with smoke. The next morning, word spread across the town. People rushed to check on him. Some stood outside the burned shop and sighed sadly, "Oh no, what will Leo do now?" Others whispered to each other, "Maybe this is the end for him." The sight of his damaged bakery made Leo's heart sink, but he refused to let despair take over. Leo felt heartbroken as he stood in front of his damaged bakery, but he was far from defeated. The smell of smoke still lingered in the air, and the walls were blackened, yet Leo lifted his chin and said firmly, "This is just another challenge. I've faced struggles before, and I will face this too. I won't give up." Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to think clearly and began planning his next steps. When he calculated the money he had saved, his heart sank. It wasn't nearly enough to replace all the equipment he had lost. For a brief moment, fear crept in, whispering doubts into his mind. But Leo quickly reminded himself of his journey, how he once started with nothing but hope, courage, and a dream. Instead of sitting in despair, Leo chose action. He decided to seek guidance from the man who had once given him a chance. He walked to Mr. Anderson's house. The old baker had retired by then, and said respectfully, "Sir, I need your advice. What would you do if you were in my place?" Mr. Anderson looked at him with kind, wise eyes, and replied, "Leo, you already know the answer. You've lived it. Nothing in life is free. Work harder, believe in yourself, and others will believe in you too." These words filled Leo with renewed strength. Inspired, he decided to rebuild from scratch. He didn't wait for someone to rescue him or feel sorry for him. Instead, he started baking at home again using whatever equipment had survived the fire. He told his customers with honesty and determination, "I won't let you down. I'll keep serving you, even if it's only a small amount for now." The townspeople were touched by his courage and resilience. They saw how hard he was fighting, and many stepped forward to support him. Some donated bags of flour and sugar. Others offered small amounts of money. A few kind-hearted neighbors came with tools and helped clean the smoky walls and repair the damaged bakery. Slowly, a sense of unity grew around Leo, a community standing behind the young man who never stopped trying. Through all the struggle and rebuilding, Leo discovered something powerful: when you work hard, stay honest, and refuse to give up, people notice. They are naturally drawn to help someone who is helping himself. Months passed as Leo and the townspeople worked side by side, cleaning, repairing, painting, and saving. Finally, the day arrived. Leo's bakery reopened. And this time, it looked more beautiful than ever. He painted the walls with warm colors, added new decorations, and introduced new items to the menu such as cupcakes, muffins, and special festival pastries. When the doors opened, his customers were thrilled. The smell of fresh bread once again filled the town. On the day of the grand reopening, something unexpected happened. The town's mayor visited the bakery. Standing proudly in front of the crowd, he said, "Leo, you are a true inspiration. You've shown our entire town that with determination and courage, anything is possible." Those words made Leo emotional. He stepped forward, looked at all the familiar faces who had supported him, and said with gratitude, "I want to thank each one of you. You've taught me that nothing in life is free, not success, not respect, not love. Everything must be earned through hard work, patience, and persistence. Never let failure stop you. Every challenge you face is simply a step towards something greater." From that day on, Leo's Fresh Bakes became more than just a bakery. It became a symbol of hope, resilience, and courage. People from nearby towns began visiting just to meet the young man who refused to give up, no matter how many challenges stood in his way. Leo's story teaches us powerful lessons. Dreams are not free, they require effort, sacrifice, and courage. Failure is not the end, it is an opportunity to learn, grow, and come back stronger. Help yourself first. When people see your effort, they will come forward to support you. Never give up. The darkest nights often come just before the brightest mornings. Leo didn't just build a bakery, he built a life filled with purpose, respect, and pride. And you can too. Whatever your dream is, don't stop chasing it. Remember, nothing is free, but everything is possible.